Hello and welcome to tutorial 8, where we're going to be looking at handling exceptions. So the first thing we need to work out is how do we detect exceptions. Well, that's actually very simple. Look here, we have this code where we have declared a integer array which has a size of 25, and we have a for loop here where we're trying to put in 30 elements. So me not knowing how to program, apparently, we'll compile this, we'll run it and expect it to work, but we're going to get an array of 30. But hang on, we've got an array index out of bound exception. That is the first thing when handling exceptions, is trying to detect them. It's a very simple aspect of it. However, the second aspect of it is actually dealing with it. The way we're going to deal with this error is we're going to use a try-catch block. Now, try-catch blocks are very, very useful, as they allow us to basically simply just handle the exception in a way we want to do it. So it's not just a forced way where it crashes. The program will end, but depending on what you put in this catch block here, I forgot to do that then. Depends on what you want to be printed out. So I'm just going to do error is semicolon plus E and compile and run it. Now, a few things about it. The try-catch syntax is you have a try curly braces, then the block of code that you're going to expect an error from, semicolon, close and brace, and the catch clause, an exception. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily just be exception. It can be an array index out about an exception, an arithmetic expression. Another example I give in the web page is an arithmetic expression. So there are numerous ones. The best place to find these would be on the Java API, which I highlight in the very first page. So now we'll compile this. Sorry, can't find symbol. It would help if I actually spelled exception right. Okay then, calm down. Okay, what? Thank you. And then as we run it, java.lang.array index out of bound exception 25. So it's telling us the array is 25 size. It's telling us what the error is, so that we know that somewhere in this block of code, which could be a lot bigger than just 3 lines, we know in there that's a certain exception, which is an array, and we know what is it related to. It's still not the most descriptive, but it's something better than nothing. So what happens though if you want to execute a try-catch? It does break, but you still want to do something. Well, you can use something called the finally clause, which is a block of code that you put at the end of your try-catch statement that no matter what happens will always be executed. Executed? If I could spell today, it would be great. There we go. Control S, save. Now we'll compile this. CLS, so we can get a clearer picture of it. So we've got the error there, but now we've also got where the finally clause gets executed. That is just a basic try-catch finally syntax. Now, however, there are 2 kinds of exceptions to be aware of: unchecked and checked. Checked are errors in the program that are recoverable via try-catch. This here would be a checked exception. A unchecked exception, as to quote Gosling, Arnold and Holmes, is unchecked runtime exceptions represent conditions that, generally speaking, reflect errors in your program's logic and not be reasonably recovered from at runtime. So to sum that up, it's just bad programming logic that's been implemented in the program. You can't use anything to do that except for changing the logical error. Now, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I have probably implemented plenty in the past, and I probably will implement plenty in the future. Hence why designing a program is very important before you start coding it. Take that one through the rest of your years. Trust me, you will appreciate that. So now moving on, that is basically how you handle exceptions. Not much to it. Very simple, but a very, very important concept that can be useful. So an example of another try-catch block is where you want to insert something in a queue, for example, where if they're trying to insert the wrong kind of data type. So you've got an integer array list, but they're trying to insert a string, and you don't want it just to massively break, you can use a try catch block statement there as well. I feel, from my personal experience, try catches are very good with arrays, but there are still plenty of uses for them elsewhere. So moving on, in the last tutorial that we will be covering, we'll be looking at input, output, reading and writing data. So I'll demonstrate then other examples of how a try catch is used. And that will be the last tutorial, so I hope the handling exceptions, this video covered some stuff that you may not have fully understood from the webpage or lectures, and I hope you fully understand the concept behind it. And see you in the last tutorial. Bye.